Fermentation is a process as old as human civilization, yet its impact on our lives remains profound and multifaceted. From transforming food and beverages to influencing culture, health, and sustainability, fermentation is much more than just a preservation technique. It's a biological marvel driven by the unseen world of microbes, yeast, bacteria, and molds that work tirelessly to alter the chemistry of their environments, creating flavors, textures, and even nutritional benefits that define much of what we consume today. At its core, fermentation is a metabolic process in which microorganisms break down sugars into simpler compounds. These compounds, such as alcohol, carbon dioxide, lactic acid, or acetic acid, act as natural preservatives while imparting unique flavors and characteristics to the food or drink being fermented. What's truly remarkable is the diversity of outcomes fermentation can achieve depending on the microbes involved in the environment in which they operate. Let's begin with alcoholic fermentation, perhaps the most well-known type. This process, carried out by yeast, is responsible for some of humanity's most celebrated creations: beer, wine, and spirits. Yeast, a single-celled organism, consumes sugars and converts them into alcohol and carbon dioxide. In beer production, this begins with malted barley, where the starches are broken down into fermentable sugars. Once yeast is introduced, it begins its work, creating the alcohol content and carbonation that make beer so distinctive. Wine production follows a similar path. Grapes, rich in natural sugars, serve as the substrate for yeast to ferment into alcohol, with the type of grape and the fermentation conditions determining the flavor profile of the wine. Spirits like whiskey, vodka, and rum take this process a step further, distilling the alcohol to higher concentrations. What's fascinating is that alcoholic fermentation isn't just about beverages, it's also the secret behind the light, airy texture of bread. As yeast ferments the sugars in dough, it releases carbon dioxide, causing the dough to rise and giving bread its characteristic fluffiness and subtle flavor. Next, let's delve into lactic acid fermentation, which transforms foods through the action of lactic acid bacteria. This process is central to many of the world's most iconic foods, from yogurt and cheese to sauerkraut, kimchi, and pickles. In yogurt production, for example, milk is inoculated with specific strains of bacteria that convert lactose, the sugar in milk, into lactic acid. This acid lowers the pH of the milk, causing it to thicken and develop the tangy flavor we associate with yogurt. Cheese production takes lactic acid fermentation a step further. After the milk is acidified, it's curdled to separate the solid curds from the liquid whey. These curds can then be aged and treated in countless ways to produce the wide variety of cheeses we enjoy, from creamy brie to sharp cheddar. Fermented vegetables like sauerkraut and kimchi are equally fascinating. When cabbage or other vegetables are salted and packed tightly to exclude oxygen, naturally occurring lactic acid bacteria begin fermenting the sugars in the vegetables, producing lactic acid. This not only preserves the vegetables but also gives them their signature tangy flavor and crisp texture. Acetic acid fermentation, another important type, is the basis for vinegar production. Here, alcohol produced by yeast is further fermented by acetic acid bacteria into vinegar. Apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, and rice vinegar all owe their existence to this process, which imparts sharpness and depth to a variety of dishes. Kombucha, a fermented tea, combines elements of both alcohol and acetic acid fermentation. Made by fermenting sweetened tea with a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, SCOBY, kombucha develops a unique tangy, slightly fizzy profile and is lauded for its probiotic benefits. Speaking of health, fermentation isn't just about taste or preservation, it's also a nutritional powerhouse. Fermented foods often contain probiotics, live microorganisms that support gut health. Probiotics can help balance the microbiome, improve digestion, and even enhance immune function. Beyond probiotics, fermentation can increase the bioavailability of nutrients, making them easier for the body to absorb. For instance, fermented soy products like tempeh and miso have reduced levels of antinutrients, which can interfere with the absorption of minerals. This means you're getting more nutrition per bite. Fermentation also plays a surprising role in unexpected foods. Chocolate and coffee, for example, rely on fermentation during their production processes. In chocolate making, cocoa beans are fermented to develop the complex flavor compounds that make chocolate so irresistible. Without this fermentation step, chocolate would taste flat and bitter. Similarly, coffee beans are fermented after harvest to remove their mucilage layer and to enhance their flavor profiles. These processes showcase how fermentation elevates even the simplest ingredients into globally beloved commodities. In modern times, fermentation is being used to tackle some of the biggest challenges in food science and sustainability. Plant-based meat and dairy alternatives are often created using microbial fermentation. Mycoproteins derived from fungi are being developed into high-protein, meat-like products that are environmentally friendly and delicious. Similarly, fermentation is being used to produce bioengineered ingredients like insulin, enzymes, and even lab-grown dairy proteins. These innovations highlight how fermentation is not just rooted in tradition but also at the forefront of technological progress. From a sustainability perspective, fermentation can help reduce food waste. Surplus fruits and vegetables can be fermented into pickles, chutneys, or vinegars, extending their shelf life and adding value. Grains and byproducts from other food processes can also be upcycled into fermented goods, minimizing waste and maximizing resource efficiency. Finally, let's not forget the cultural significance of fermentation. Across the globe, fermented foods tell the story of human ingenuity and adaptation. In Japan, miso and soy sauce are staples with deep historical roots. In Ethiopia, injera, a fermented flatbread, is a dietary cornerstone. In Korea, kimchi is a symbol of national identity and culinary pride. These foods connect us to our ancestors, showcasing the creativity and resourcefulness that have been passed down through generations. In essence, fermentation is a celebration of transformation. It's the alchemy of life, where microbes take simple ingredients and turn them into something extraordinary. Whether it's the effervescence of champagne, the tang of sourdough, or the umami depth of miso, fermentation is a testament to the power of science and nature working together. The next time you enjoy a fermented food or drink, remember the millions of microbes that made it possible and the centuries of tradition behind it. Fermentation isn't just a process, it's a story, a science, and a taste of the miraculous world around us.